We breathe in and we breathe out. It is the most fundamental rhythm of human existence, a silent cadence keeping us tethered to the waking world. Yet for over a century, a calculated shadow hijacked this simple breath. This is not a tale of a sudden catastrophe or a swift, unpredictable plague sweeping arbitrarily across continents. It is the meticulous chronicle of the most successfully engineered deception in the history of modern global commerce. Imagine an era when trusted physicians, draped in crisp white coats, smiled warmly from the glossy pages of national magazines. They heartily recommended a smooth, toasted draw to soothe an aching throat or calm frayed nerves. It was a time when the silver screen shimmered through a thick haze of manufactured glamour, a carefully constructed illusion where every leading man and leading lady exhaled sweeping plumes of sophisticated, manufactured elegance. The industry promised freedom, rebellion, and unparalleled satisfaction. They meticulously wrapped a silent, creeping devastation in elegant paper and golden foil, delivering it daily to millions of eager, trusting consumers across the globe. But beneath the charming veneer of toasted flavors and rugged cowboy advertisements, a deeply intricate science was being quietly weaponized against the very people who trusted the comforting glow of that singular, burning ember. To understand the architecture of this deception, we must first dissect the mechanism of the product itself. It was a marvel of chemical engineering, designed with one singular, ruthless objective: the complete subjugation of human free will. When the dried leaf burns, it releases a potent cocktail of thousands of chemical compounds. This invisible armada invades the lungs, crosses the blood barrier, and rushes straight into the delicate neurological architecture of the human brain. The crown jewel of this toxic arsenal is the alkaloid known as nicotine. It is a substance so aggressively addictive that its grip on the neurological pathways easily rivals that of the most highly restricted narcotics on earth. The corporate executives did not simply stumble upon this neurochemical phenomenon by accident. They painstakingly studied it, cultivated it, and ultimately manipulated the alkaline levels to ensure the chemical hook sank deeper with every single inhalation. They transformed a humble agricultural crop into a highly optimized delivery system, ensuring that the consumer would never simply walk away. They locked their patrons into a lifelong contract written in tar and cellular mutation. Yet even as corporate profits soared into the untold billions, a quiet alarm began to ring in the sanitized halls of medical research facilities. A subtle warning emerged that the toasted illusion was fracturing under microscopic scrutiny. In the early 1950s, independent scientists began publishing undeniable correlations. They observed an unprecedented, terrifying spike in aggressive cellular rebellions within the lungs of patients who were fiercely loyal to their daily burning habit. The statistical anomalies could no longer be dismissed as mere coincidence or the natural wear and tear of urban living. The scientific data pointed an unwavering, accusatory finger directly at the glossy packages lining neighborhood store shelves. The biological evidence was painted in stark, indisputable microscopic slides. They showed blackened tissues and ravenous tumors thriving exactly where healthy oxygen exchange should occur, signaling a looming public health crisis of catastrophic, unparalleled proportions. Panic did not paralyze the industry titans. Instead, it galvanized them into a coordinated, highly defensive posture. It triggered a clandestine summit that would forever alter the dark landscape of corporate accountability and public relations warfare. In December of 1953, the presidents of the largest manufacturing empires gathered in the opulent halls of a famous New York hotel. They did not meet to solve the emerging medical crisis, but to utterly bury it. They hired an elite public relations firm, forging an unholy alliance designed solely to manufacture doubt. They realized early on that they did not need to prove the product was safe. They only needed to muddy the scientific waters. They formed a highly publicized research committee, a brilliantly orchestrated facade that promised the public they were actively seeking the truth. Simultaneously, they secretly funded sympathetic scientists to churn out distracting data and endlessly contradictory hypotheses. For decades, the highest-ranking industry executives sat before government oversight committees, raised their right hands, and solemnly swore under oath. They boldly claimed they believed their products were not addictive and absolutely did not cause horrific illnesses. This was not merely a passive denial or a tragic misunderstanding of slowly emerging science. It was an aggressive, well-funded campaign of pure disinformation designed to keep the revenue flowing while the global body count quietly multiplied. Independent investigative journalism thrives on exposing such orchestrated shadows. I deeply invite you to subscribe to this channel right now, joining our relentless pursuit to unravel the complex narratives that powerful entities spend vast fortunes trying to conceal. While the public face of the industry preached uncertainty and constantly demanded more research, the locked filing cabinets deep within their own corporate laboratories told a chillingly different, highly conclusive story of undeniable, calculated guilt. Internal corporate memos from the 1960s, eventually unearthed by relentless legal litigation, revealed a dark truth. The company scientists clearly understood the carcinogenic nature of the smoke and the precise addictive properties of the chemical compounds they cultivated. They conducted secret animal experiments in remote, secured facilities. They watched in real time as the biological subjects developed the exact same lethal mutations that independent researchers were desperately trying to warn the blissfully unaware public about. When their own private researchers stumbled upon damning results that confirmed the worst medical fears, the projects were abruptly shuttered. The raw data was shipped to overseas legal departments, and the frustrated scientists were sworn to absolute silence. The betrayal was not just an omission of truth. It was a proactive suppression of life-saving medical intelligence. They actively prioritized the massive quarterly dividend over the agonizing, preventable deaths of millions of loyal consumers worldwide. The sheer audacity of the internal communications is utterly staggering. The surviving documents feature wealthy executives casually discussing the lethal nature of their primary product as if they were debating the packaging colors of an entirely harmless confectionery treat. By the time the legal dam finally broke, and brave whistleblowers smuggled the undeniable proof into the glaring light of national media, the damage inflicted upon global public health was nearly too massive to accurately quantify. We are looking at a historical casualty list that completely dwarfs the battlefields of modern global conflicts. It was an invisible war fought within the pulmonary systems of grandfathers, mothers, and teenagers desperately chasing an empty, manufactured rebellion. The ultimate toll is measured not just in severely shortened lives. It is measured in the grueling, suffocating battles waged in sterile hospital rooms, the astronomical financial burden placed upon medical infrastructures, and the echoing silence left in grieving homes. The massive financial settlements reached at the very end of the 20th century were historic in their unprecedented scope, yet they barely scratched the surface of the staggering economic and emotional devastation wrought by 50 long years of relentless, calculated deceit. If this vast machinery of corporate deception has touched your life or the life of someone you loved, I urge you to share your story in the comments below. Together, we can turn private grief into a collective, undeniably powerful record of truth. One might naturally assume that such a monumental public exposure of corporate villainy would lead to the total dismantling of the empire. But the true horror of this narrative lies in the industry's terrifying, chameleon-like ability to adapt and survive. Driven from the glossy billboards and television screens of the strictly regulated developed world, the cartels simply shifted their gaze. They aggressively exported their lethal allure to emerging global markets with looser oversight and profoundly vulnerable populations. Today, they wrap themselves in a newfound, highly polished rhetoric of harm reduction. They market sleek, battery-powered devices that deliver the exact same addictive payload under the guise of technological innovation and modern flavor-infused sophistication. They sponsor massive academic symposiums, lobby sovereign governments with bottomless legal war chests, and continuously reinvent the delivery mechanisms. They meticulously ensure the fundamental business model of cultivating dependency remains entirely intact for the next vulnerable generation of potential customers. The dark century of lies did not end with a dramatic courtroom gavel strike. It merely evolved. They traded the harsh, unfiltered smoke of the past for a smooth, synthetic vapor, explicitly designed to obscure the exact same predatory intent. As we look back at the countless millions lost to a fabricated, weaponized uncertainty, we must recognize a hard truth. The ultimate defense against corporate predation is an unwavering, relentless demand for absolute public transparency and uncorrupted scientific truth. We cannot undo the tragic history written in the darkened, failing lungs of the past century. But by clearly remembering the calculated mechanics of this grand deception, we ensure that the wealthy merchants of doubt can never again operate in the shadows.